Many of us, if not most of us, have not been taught what we need to know. We don't have certain understandings about how our physical body connects with the spiritual world, the collective consciousness, with each other, with the ethereal, with the divine. There are so many aspects that we simply don't understand. If we were flying our own spaceship through space, what would we know about our spaceship? Would we know how to fly it? Perhaps. But would we know how to protect it as we move through space? Would we know how to use our cloaking device? Would we know how to use our weapons or tools of protection? And I don't think that we would. I think that we're flying through space and just getting by on what we know. And with that, I'd like to talk about your electromagnetic field. Your body actually has several electromagnetic fields. One of the strongest electromagnetic fields that you have is your heart, which can reach a distance of at least 5 feet. So your field of energy is actually reaching out in a span of 5 feet in all directions. And your other force fields can also reach major distances. So if you think about it, if you get within the realm of someone's 5 feet electromagnetic field, you might actually be picking up on their energy and vice versa. There could be a sharing of energy. There could be a certain connection there that you may not have ever noticed or acknowledged before. So give it a try. Get close to someone that maybe even you don't know. And I think that you'll find that there is a feeling you can pick up on someone else's energy. But knowing that, you also should know that there are several aspects and understandings that a human being needs to have in order to be healthy, happy, successful, and well. And we found that these electromagnetic fields actually protect our health and may be some sort of a conduit to an energy that we can't necessarily see. To give you a little history on the science behind electromagnetic fields, I want to mention Harold Burr, who was a Yale lecturer in the late 30s, who started doing experiments with a vacuum tube velometer. He was measuring the electromagnetic fields of things. And he started to study people. And through his studies, he started to find that people that had mental illness and schizophrenia would produce a crazy electromagnetic field, a wild electromagnetic fields that were notable. He also discovered that women during their menstrual periods had significant changes in their electromagnetic fields. Again, very notable and noticeable changes. At this time, he was raising concerns about technology, electricity, and things that were in our environment that might interfere with our electromagnetic field. His practices were picked up by Rupert Becker, and some of you guys might recognize the name Rupert Becker. He wrote The Body Electric. He repeated Burr's experiments and discovered that the energy wasn't necessarily dipolar, but was possibly morphological, meaning that he could run a steady DC current through physical matter. So he did another experiment. And in this experiment, he took the head and tail off of a flatworm. And as many of you know, flatworms are supposed to regenerate. And as you would expect, a head would regenerate in the place where a head belongs, and a tail would regenerate in the place where a tail belongs. But in this experiment, he changed and reversed the current, and it actually caused a head to appear where the tail would have been, and a tail to appear where the head should be. So it actually changed the state and nature of this physical matter, which led him to believe that, yes, indeed, electrical magnetic fields could have an effect on the overall growth of a physical being. He went on to do more experiments where he was working with regenerating body parts of animals. He was able to regenerate the forearm of a rabbit. And he had concluded through these experiments, electromagnetic energy in the nervous system is the factor that exerts major controlling factors over all processes in general, which should lead us to think very seriously about the electromagnetic interferences that we may experience in our lives. Moving into the 80s, we find an interesting experiment which turns out to be a crazy anomaly. Bevan Reed was working with sodium chloride crystals in his laboratory when he started to notice that vortexes appearing on the polystyrene that he was using to seal his experiments with sodium chloride crystals. As he started to observe the behavior of these vortexes growing, he started to notice that when his lab was busy and chaotic, that the vortexes would appear in greater numbers than it would in a calmer setting. He decided to create an artificial vortex to measure the distance between supporting spirals. They matched perfectly with those in space, and they appeared in the electrical values that are needed to run a cell. Through that, he discovered a continuous connection between space and matter. He discovered that the outflow from matter could produce an exact copy of the form, and the inflow from the etheric or space realm may carry instruction for the pattern of a growing physical structure. Rupert Sheldrake brings us back to the idea of morphogenesis. He redefines the morphogenic fields by looking at the fields as not physical, but entering into the physical, guiding atoms, molecules, and cells into place. His experiments went on to study behavior. In one of his experiments with mice, it was revealed that training of previous generations of mice would make it easier for the future generations to learn certain tasks. It was as if it was in the collective energy, in the knowledge that was there once it had been represented through learning in that one generation. It carried on into future generations, making it easier for those future generations, which is a fascinating concept. Because if we can make things better for ourselves now, we're making things better for future generations. One of his most famous experiments was that of the 100th monkey, who started washing her potatoes in the sea only after the monkeys on another island were taught how to do this, which again lends to the idea of a collective conscious energy. So there's another direction that I want to share with you about the energy that might be coming in that can affect our electromagnetic field. I was looking into the work of Rudolph Steiner when I stumbled across Lili Kolinsky, who was a student or follower of Harold Burr. She had taken his experiments to a whole new level, discovering the science of capillary dynamolysis, which was the study of the etheric energy that moves through plants or certain organic material. So Lili found herself trying to settle a disagreement between the church and the astronomer royal, who had a disagreement on where Easter should fall. Now, astrologically speaking, Easter falls on the first Sunday following the full moon after the spring equinox on the 21st of March. So to settle the dispute between the church and the astrologer royal, she began to do daily experiments with the science of capillary dynamolysis. Through her daily experiments, she discovered that specifically on the 28th of March that year, that the colors and shapes of the patterns produced by the capillary dynamolysis were so unique and different than the everyday patterns that were created that she had been recording, which leads us to believe that events can be happening astrologically speaking that are having an effect on our electromagnetic field every day. We already know and have all come to understand that the moon has a physical effect on our bodies. Never forget that we are primarily water, so we are affected by the moon, the tides, and everything else that you can imagine that has a frequency in our environment. And we are sympathetically resonating with all of those things all of the time, which makes us beg to question, how are these energies really affecting us on a physical level? Well, Rudolph Steiner went on to do more experiments. He experimented with body fluids like urine or blood samples. Through his experiments, he discovered that there was a link to the life force, as he liked to call it, and to illness in the physical body. Through this method, he was even able to predict illnesses before they ever manifested physically. This is something very powerful that I think we should all know about. This is something that we should understand so that we can protect ourselves and we can have better lives. All of the history here with the electromagnetic field is fascinating, and it's interesting, and it's proof positive that there is an electromagnetic field surrounding your body and that it does have an impact on you on a cellular level. Knowing that, we need to take a look at our environment and see how the things in our environment are impacting our lives. We are surrounded by electricity, lights, televisions, computers, cell phones, all of these things that are within close proximity, if not just floating through the air, with microwaves and all sorts of energy that is just surrounding us all the time. It could be potentially damaging our energetic field. The one thing that we can do to counteract that is to remove ourselves from those environments whenever possible. We need to first of all recognize there is this electromagnetic field. Start to try and become fully aware of how far it extends. Be aware of the things that you might be picking up on with that energetic field. Be aware of how your feelings might be impacting those around you. But the number one thing you can do is separate yourself from so much of that energetic activity. And you can do that by spending time in nature. The more time you spend in nature, the healthier and happier you will be. We as humans were not designed to live in these crazy environments that we've created for ourselves. Though we think they're comfortable, they're temperature controlled, and we have all the comforts we need, the physical human part of us still needs certain things from the environment, from the world that we live in. The world resonates at about 7.5 hertz, and the human body resonates from a range of 7.5 up to 17 hertz. You can be resonating at a very, very high frequency that might not be comfortable or healthy for you to experience. By going into nature, by putting your feet on the ground, by being in a frequency that is a lower frequency, something that's more calming and healing, is going to bring your body into a better frequency and allow for you to heal your electromagnetic field and allow you to strengthen those parts of yourself, physically, spiritually, however you want to look at it. Could be both, could be either. But it's going to enable you to strengthen those parts, those aspects of yourself that need to be strengthened so that you can be healthy, happy, and well in the life that you want to live. So I hope this video helps you guys in some way. I wish you all the very best. Take care.